Okay, so these are going to be notes for Exodus 22 and 23. Whoa, that was long. I know. So it wasn't too bad, though, but these are very important laws. Like I said, you want to keep out the basic instructions. These are the laws apart as far as stealing. If somebody steals something from you, there's something about stealing. If you don't have it, why would you want to get yourself used to doing things that you're not going to be without? It's not going to teach you. It's not going to train you to be prepared for what you need. And you don't want that guilty conscience of, what if I get caught? What if something happens? It's something about stealing that you never know what importance it had to the person you stole it from. It might have had some sentimental value, which you can't put a price on. It might have been from a family, parent, or they might have went through a struggle to get what that was. It might have been something so small, but you don't know what memory they have to that, what their soul connects to that particular article that you stole. Regardless of what you say, even if the people that have a lot of money, the people that have a lot of money, if you steal something from them, somebody still had to suffer to get that particular item, and it doesn't go right to do an eye for an eye and ear for ear. And they did say that in the text, but these are laws that were written for spiritual purposes, just as these are written. Because if you see a lot of these things, you'll see that they'll say after the 7th year or 6th year, give it back. And then, or the slave, if he steals something, you got to give it back. Some of these are as far as moral things that we don't have any more moral values, that we don't have that much more in the system, because we always want to find an excuse. If you do something and you have to add an excuse to it, there's something wrong with it. Because when you do something good, there is no excuse for doing nothing good. Everything is seen, felt. It's paid in full when you do something good. There's no payment for it. There's no excuse that you have for doing something good. There's no excuse needed when you do something good. Now, when you do something bad, that's another story. If you have to put excuses there, you're doing something wrong. Because if you didn't, then there wouldn't need to be necessary for you to have to explain anything. And that's that. It's pretty simple, but you could drag it out as much as you want. Then we have that, and then of course it said, be nice to the foreigners. You also were foreigners in the land of Egypt. A lot of us, we don't know where we know where the Holy Spirit's been and where it goes, where it takes us, but there's a lot of, processes of since the time began that it's been through. And just as the evil spirits, as we get into where it says that God will be angry if you are, his fire will blaze against you if anybody cries out to him. He had just got the people out of Egypt, and you're not about to go take somebody out of a land where you were crying at and go to another land and make people cry. It does not go together. That's not how God is. We have a fair and just God, as he said. And as far as, rumors, not to lie about people, don't be persuaded by something. This is something that I think a lot of people don't hold a hardcore value to, that if somebody is doing something for you, and then of course, yeah, you're going to get along with them, but that's just like the Holy Scripture says. Yeah, anybody is going to love somebody that's doing something for them. That doesn't make you a good person. That's just common sense. It's just, if you do something, you're supposed to do it out of love because you want to help. Like I said, the same thing as making excuses. You don't need them. When you do something for somebody and you do it out of love, there is no excuses needed. Because if you have to put an excuse behind what you give, meaning that, oh, I'm doing it because of this, or I'm doing it because of that. If you have to make an excuse for your giving, then you're not giving out of your heart. Then you truly are doing it for your own good. You're doing it. You're being persuaded to act out what you want out of the situation. You're not doing it. You're not living. You're going by the world's sin and excuses and standards. And it's, a lot of people choose to live this way, but it's not good. If you're going to love somebody, love them for who they are. Don't love them because it's better for you or it's going to work out better for you, because God sees through all that. It might be okay for a little bit, but eventually it's going to backfire, and you're going to have to go through the same process over and over and over again until you learn. Because he loves us and he wants us to do things right. He wants us to live peaceful. He wants us to have real love, not bought out excuses and all these things. That's not the life we were called to have. Okay, so we have that, and not to lie against thy neighbor or in court, not to be bad to the poor people, mean to the poor people, to give them a just trial, to hear them out, which is, I think, any mankind of any kind should be heard out, if anything. A lot of these things about the laws that I have heard, let's say a lot of religions have put these laws so have made them so worldly that they excluded God out of them, and they made their own things, whether it was about sex, whether it was about having things, whether it was about having control. I cannot believe how many things I read from people that are genuinely have had some of their great ancestors teaching and really just diminish that because of their own adding to practices and rituals, and the turning around and doing something else for their own benefit or for the benefit of self, to make a self a greater person. Just like, just like when the snake told Eve, hey, if you do this, you'll be like God. And that's what we do. We think that if we do what God tells us to do or not to do, we think we're going to become like God. We're never going to be like God. Never. He is merciful. We are his child. That's like me saying, I'm going to be just like my mom. You're never going to be just like your mom. She's always going to be greater than you. She's more wise. She's been through so much more. I mean, it's impossible to even think in those terms or ways. And God is way so much bigger than that. So, I mean, don't ever put yourself to think you're going to be greater than God ever, no matter what you do. But he does give us his glory in his name that we carry as his children. And so we have that, and then we have the to pay close attention. And when he was saying he was going to go, he said that he was going to go into the land and he was going to drive out the people in front of them. Like I said, this is a spiritual book. If you go somewhere and you move somewhere, and in this town there's people that are, let's say, sex slave, pornographer, whatever you want to call it, they're doing it, and you come from a clean house, you don't do those things. Or are you going to go in and start doing those things with them, alongside them, or sit there and watch them do it? This is something that, like I said, is a spiritual battle. This is something that we say, okay, we see something spiritually in people. It's not so much that the people that we're trying to kill, we're trying to get rid of those spirits. Those are evil spirits that this Bible's talking about. It is not talking about just literally land people. And that's what's sad. We are all at war because a lot of people think that this is a human battle, and the spirits are the ones fighting, and we're the ones losing lives. Our children are dying. People are getting killed. People are starving. People are going through so many things because we cannot get the grasp of their spirits that we have to fight for. And you can't fight spirits with cardinal weapons of the world. And so you really have to grab that when you hear and you read these things. You really have to look at it in a spiritual sense as well as you do in a worldly sense, because these laws also protect us from those spiritual things. That's why they're written here at certain times of the year. You're going to do this and you're going to do that, because the world and the Holy Scripture is so much bigger than it goes back into the ancient past, and the things that have happened that we are able to see from what happened, and that nothing exists anymore except only us, our species. And we have to know that there's something greater. There's something greater that we could do, that we have a chance to do, that others didn't. Okay, we have that, and of course, we have the celebrations with the yeast of the unleavened bread, and we're not supposed to do that either. And it's the same thing. You'll see that over and over again. The yeast and the heart and the barley and the certain things that God is just to him, it's just unacceptable. It's just like I believe a lot of it has to do with our ancient times. It was used in the ancient times for certain things that God did not hold acceptable, and so when we came into our time, not allowed. And that's why I had the 7. Like I said, the number 7 only means a lifetime era that I see in my math. And then, okay, and then the 7 years, like you said, you had the baby, your firstborn from the animals. You keep it for 7 days with the mother, and then you give it to him on the 8th day. Everybody knows 7 days is not going to be enough with the mother. But these are things, again, like I said, represent spiritual things, lifetime. Okay, next one, 8 days. 8 days the same way he also did for circumcision when the children were born. 8 day, hey, circumcise them. That's a covenant. Also, another thing that is way bigger than just this Holy Scripture. God left us all these things for of the past that we are finding out there, that geologists, archaeologists, and everything are finding. Paleontologists, everybody that's finding for a reason, because it's meant to be discovered. It's meant for you to discover. It's meant for you to know that there's something else that was before you, and for you to catch that. Okay, so study your ancient history. Okay, and then so like I said, when he said, I'm going to get all these people, I'm going to take them out slowly so the animals won't take over, which they will. Animals are very, very smart. Animals do communicate if you don't pay attention to them. Even the small ones that get on your nerves, the birds or whatever it is, which not birds, but anyways, insects. they are communicating. If you don't catch that, if you hear something and it's irritating the heck out of you, it's not just to irritate you. They're communicating and they're getting a message across. And it might not be to you, it might be to a spiritual world that you're just not catching on to. But you really have to open your eyes and your mind. This world is so much bigger than what we are. And like I said, you go to these places and you destroy them. You do not allow them. Meaning, you see these things, you do not allow it around you. You destroy it. You stop it, and you're helping by stopping it, because those things should not exist. They're only harming people, more people and more people and more people. There's one thing to die happily with your family, whether you have everything or you don't, and there's another thing to die in the land of a foreigner and to be ravished of everything that you are. Something totally, totally different. It's like you getting eaten by animals, literally. It's just something that should not exist, but it does. Okay, and we're going to stop there. That is Exodus 23:33. And we'll be back tomorrow, the next day, to finish up. And like I said, take these in slowly, just from the Mediterranean Sea, like where he said, from the Red River to the Mediterranean Sea to Euphrates, all these things, everything that they're finding in these actual parts of the world, actually, they're digging up a lot of our history. So, no, ancient things. You really, really make time to look at that stuff. It'll help you not just understand the Holy Scripture better, but it'll open up everything for you. So, okay, God bless. We'll be back. All right, thanks.